Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interlinked, the official Neo Tokyo podcast powered by Shrapnel and Crypto Unicorns.
Brace yourself for impact, crypto gamers. I am reporting from the Sacrifice Zone. STX3 just wrapped up and it was chock full of new features. One of those new features is the addition of weapon skin fragments. Scattered all over the map, in drawers, in boxes, on your dead opponents, there were weapon skin fragments that you could extract and then combine to create new weapon skins and bring those to the marketplace or strap them onto your favorite weapon and hop back into the Sacrifice Zone. They also added Metal, their off-chain point reward system, and some killer map updates. Can't wait to dive back into the Shadow Zone on June 24th for STX 3.1. Introducing Crypto Unicorns, a play and collect game by Laguna Games. Breed, battle, and collect your favorite unicorns. Crypto Unicorns has recently successfully migrated to the Xi blockchain. The Xi blockchain was custom developed leveraging Arbitrum technology to address the needs of Web3 gaming at scale. Stay tuned to the end of this episode to learn all about Crypto Unicorns' Play to Airdrop campaign, which just kicked off on July 1st. Learn all about this and more at www.cryptounicorns.fun. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
Today, we have the honor of speaking with Mr. David from Ultra. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, really excited that you're here, and lucky me, get to be joined by my co-host, the best co-host of all time, Mr. Nick Crypto Atheist. How are you, sir?
What's up, Ben? Doing fantastic. Stoked to get caught up on all going on at Ultra and dive into some crypto gaming.
Let's jump in. So, David, I really want to lay a foundation down for the people who aren't as familiar with Ultra. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of background on yourself, talk a little bit about the team, and then tell us a story of how Ultra really came into being.
All right. So I've been in the games industry for quite some time. I started in the mobile games industry. So I moved to China to build my first studio. We made a couple of games there that were quite successful. I think my objective was to really find out, how could I do, making games, because I was in the IT industry just before that, and I've always dreamed to work in the games industry. And so that was really sort of like a shot. I'm like, okay, I have one shot. I made some money, and I'm going to give it a try. And so we were, quite successful on these two first games. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go more full in. And so I started another studio, which was making a much bigger game for PC and consoles. We did some really great work on that game, and the studio got acquired by a company called Kingsoft, which is sort of like the Microsoft of China. They have an Office suite and so on, but they also have a big video games industry arm. And eventually, when the acquisition was completed, I got an offer to start a video games, like a console, a project for the Chinese market. And that was something, of course, very unique. I thought it was crazy. But then, they introduced me to people from AMD that were part of the project. And, it was a really big project. And I agreed to head that project. And so if you think about a video game console, you're really thinking about a games distribution platform wrapped into hardware. And so when that was done, I came back to Europe, and I started Ultra. And it's basically another games distribution platform. But I wanted to add and leverage blockchain technology to this, and get rid of the hardware part of the console. And I've been a big fan of blockchain ever since 2010, 2011. I've been following it. When Ethereum came, I thought it to be a revolution in many different aspects, and the games industry for me was like the perfect industry to apply blockchain technology, to sort of like reveal what the potential of the technology was. And eventually, I understand that it was also the best venue to democratize blockchain technology. And so that's how Ultra was born. When we started, we sort of like started shopping for a blockchain. And back then, our requirements were the same that we have today. And we didn't find any blockchain that met the requirements that we imposed to ourselves. And so we ended up being forced to build our own blockchain. And so that's how, we ended up going deep in. Initially, we just wanted to make a games distribution platform, but then, one thing leads to another, and you end up having to make a tough decision. And that's how we sort of like built Ultra, the blockchain, which is currently live and being consumed by our services, like our games distribution platform, the NFT marketplace, all the different smart contracts that games are leveraging, and so on.
And then now that we've got a bit of a foundation of the start of Ultra, how it evolved in the early stages, could you give the audience a good snapshot of where Ultra is today?
Yeah, so we built all the foundations necessary for distributing games. And so it's really like the blockchain layer, but also everything that goes around it that is necessary and which were part of the requirements that we have, which is we don't want any user onboarding friction. And that alone, can be, divided in many different things. For example, account key, regeneration, because you can't ask to a kid, hey, write this on a piece of paper and don't lose it. Even adults are losing their own keys. So you need a more robust solution. You need a solution that is also, very streamlined. So you don't want to bother people to get on board. You want to get them on board, and then eventually, sort of smooth corners after, once they are convinced by the service, the platform, the game, or whatsoever. And so we got that in the form of a client, which feels very much like Steam. You install it. Once installed, you get access to a series of services. Your keys are generated on your computer. Your keys are protected by a non-custodial decentralized solution. So we've even done things by the books, which, not cheating in different ways, which is part of why it took so long for us to achieve there. We wanted sort of like a pure blockchain experience, which as a result gives us opportunities. Because as soon as you start sort of cheating on the way how keys are managed, or whether the user even has a key, it potentially prevents you later to start introducing new dApps or third-party dApps and things like that. And that is a problem we don't have. So we can have a service that's built by somebody else and integrated in Ultra and just provide it as an additional, service, and everything, would happen very smoothly. And the user wouldn't even need to notice that they're using blockchain technology. And so that's the client aspect. And in the client, there's 3 layers. There's the games distribution platform, which is something akin to Steam. where you can browse for games, you can get a game, and then you can get updates and download it in a seamless way like Steam. We support DRM in a novel way. For instance, when you buy a game, you're really buying an NFT. And the NFT is your proof of ownership of the game. That means that, since our NFT has a lot of intellectual property rights type of parameters and settings, such as, can you transfer it? Yes, no. If you transfer it, can it be transferred for free? Yes, no. If it's no, okay, well, is there a minimum sales price? Okay, what is the minimum sales price? So do you want a commission every time this, game is being sold? And, are there one or more beneficiaries for these commissions and so on and so forth? And so if you think about it, it's essentially a programmed license that has parameters enforced by the blockchain. And the ownership of this license then unlocks the DRM. So the game build itself, the executable, is encrypted in a particular way that is linked to your computer, that is linked to, your NFT and the NFT, the blockchain account behind. So there's a lot of very cool things that are possible there, including, when it comes to distribution, promotions of games, and the sales, the marketing around games, because as soon as it's tokenized, it opens up a whole new bunch of possibilities, such as the ability to distribute games within a game, or the ability to distribute games within a third-party service and things like that. So that's a games distribution platform. Then we have the NFT marketplace, because the idea, of course, is that the game that you're playing is going to reward you with NFTs and other things. Or when you buy the game, you want to, perhaps sell it. And so that's where the marketplace come into play. So we have, of course, linked to that, we also have a blockchain wallet where you can see your assets and transfer them, sell them, these kind of things. And then the last part that we have is a esports tournament platform, which exists to basically interact with the community. So it's a tool for us to, organize events, have people start playing together, help game developers generate, interest in their game, and essentially engage with their community. And so this platform also leverages blockchain technology, namely when you create a tournament, you can decide, okay, the winner receives this NFT and this cryptocurrency, number 2 receives that, and number 3 receives that, and you can, distribute basically digital assets when somebody wins. That is the first phase, which we completed. And then at the moment, we're working on a second phase of the platform, which is the tokenization of leagues, teams, and players. So you can create a league, sell team slots, a little bit like, I don't know, like the NBA, and there's a limited amount of teams that exist in the NBA. Each of these teams were purchased originally. And then once you have your team, you can start getting players in your team. And then there's a draft system and all of that. So we're doing that. We're building that. And so a player is tokenized, the team is tokenized, the league is tokenized. So all of these assets can be transferred and generate revenue for the different parties involved. And that's, in a nutshell, what Ultra is.
Yeah, I love that. I think a comparison that a lot of people, at least earlier on, to what I was exposed to was, we're basically like, Ultra's coming in and competing with, something like a Steam, also with a bit of a GameStop in there. So drawing some parallels from the Web 2 world.
For sure.
what I think is interesting too is that you guys have also gone into the esports world, and then you kind of have like your own unique game. You have the marketplace, you're working with other games, and then you have the esports piece too. So you kind of like building this entire ecosystem around crypto gaming. How do you think about that from the perspective of asset allocation or resource allocation within your team of like how do we deploy time, energy, people towards this initiative versus that initiative? It's almost like there are three separate businesses that you're kind of building for yourself, right? Like if you have your marketplace, then you need content on the marketplace, and in order to promote the content, then you need esports, and then if you go to the esports, so you need the content and you need the way to transact, so the other two, and then so on and so forth. So you're kind of building for yourself, but you're also building a really big endeavor. So maybe you could talk about resource allocation a bit.
Yeah, so this is one of the main challenge at Ultra, of course, because there are so many different pieces that are part of this big ecosystem. And the way we're doing this is by essentially we've been working with video game studio. In particular, we're working with different ones, but one of them in Canada is doing an amazing FPS, and our objective was to support them to make it sort of like the flagship of the Ultra platform, which will democratize the access to the game, to the platform, because people are going to be interested in the game, and to get the game, they're going to, install the client, and then they're going to discover what it is all about. And for us to also demonstrate the capabilities of our technology. So once you play the game, you leave the game, everything is in your wallet, you can sell it, you see it in the NFT marketplace, you can transfer it. I mean, sort of completely seamless. So in terms of resource allocation, a lot of our decisions are based on the game's own development timeline. Like the game has certain requirements that comes into different milestones, and so our objective is to get these things done before that their milestone arrives. Like, okay, they will make use of a special NFT functionality. It's in our backlog. We know it's going to be in 2 months. Therefore, we need this functionality to be done before they need to start implementing. And so we're working our way towards that. In the meantime, we're essentially on the esports platform part. We're testing. We're improving the platform. The idea is that when the game goes live, that we have a platform that works, that has been battle tested, that's been polished. Because esports for multiplayer game is a big, part of, the puzzle. Also, esports, if you think about NFTs, there's a lot of very straightforward use cases for multiplayer games in particular. And therefore, to the Web3, NFTs, tokens, and so on, cosmetics and all of that, it fits very, very well, NFT use cases, which can be rare, transferred, grow in value, these kind of things. So the esports platform made a lot of sense for us. But we're also already organizing tournaments, testing that, getting feedbacks, looking at the data, find out where the issues are, and evolve the platform that way. So basically, the very first step was to have the basic of everything, which happened maybe last year. And from there, developing towards, the needs of both, that studio, but also other studios and other partners.
I'd love to dive into some of the specifics around the games being built on the platform. So maybe you can target one or two. What's the game that you're most excited about being built currently on the Ultra platform?
Yeah, so there's a game called Citadel, which is a really exciting FPS. Um, it's a FPS that I think will introduce a really interesting Web3 use cases. Because Web3 today is still at its infancy when it comes to integration in games. Everybody's sort of dabbling, testing different things. But we're also starting to see more ambitious use cases of Web3 technology in games, and that's one of them. The way they introduce a Web3 in their game is to have two parts of the game, really. There's one part that is the FPS part that is designed to look and feel like any other FPS. Even though it includes NFTs and FTs and so on, because they use our technology, it's basically invisible. And then there's another part which makes use of more Web3 centric mechanisms such as staking and mining, farming, these kind of functionalities. And that is a part that is considered the corporate part. Okay, so the FPS part is a place where you could say to somebody, hey, for that skin, you're going to be paying, $1 to $5, $10, $20. That's perfectly fine. Nobody's going to rage for that. But if you start saying, well, for that weapon, you need to pay, 20,000 and it's really necessary, then it's a problem. And so with the corporation side of the game, that possibility still exists. It's going to be more of a sort of a manager type of game where you're going to be extracting resources from land. You're going to be converting these resources. You're going to do researches. You're going to find technology. And then once you have this technology, the resources and the infrastructure, you can start manufacturing certain goods that then start feeding the FPS experience. And the cool thing about that is that everything that has to do with manufacturing, extraction, deals and all of that is on chain. These are smart contracts, like pure, which means that even though the game comes with a dApp that will have its own core functionalities, we already have some people planning to create their own dApps that will allow you to, for example, predict the market, because it's going to have its own, economy with resources, how fast, I don't know, titanium is being consumed. Maybe there are new technologies that have been discovered that require titanium, and then you can sort of predict how much titanium will be missing from the market. Therefore, I should invest in a titanium mine, and you can do your math and know how much you're going to sell each weapon and know how much you're going to make money. And that is a game in itself. And so because everything is on chain, and this is where Web3 is interesting, is that this whole part doesn't work with traditional APIs where we tell you this is what you can do with that API. This is the input, that's the output, and that's it. And, if we decide to change that, we can do it. Here, because it's on the blockchain, resource extraction, conversion, manufacturing, all of that, that is sort of the API itself. Like you can build on top of that whatever you want. For instance, you could have somebody investing in a mine and then renting that mine to somebody because there's a smart contract that can provide you a temporary access to to the mine, asset, which means everything that is behind it, extracting and upgrading and all of that becomes a possibility for you because the smart contract temporarily grants you access to that. So these are, really interesting things when it comes to, an open economy, where everybody that can come in and decide, okay, I'm going to make my own corporation. and I'm going to focus on this or that. That is my strategy. That is what I want to do. And you can start, having your own impact. And we think that, guilds are going to create their own, interfaces, data analytics, multi-sig systems where, decisions are made together, and, acquiring technology, because that's a big part of the game. Some of these technologies that you can produce are going to be very rare. And maybe you're the only one that owns it. So we call them technology production licenses. It's sort of like a patent. And some of these patents exist in a single NFT, or some of them exist maybe in 3, 4, 5, and then different corporations can acquire them. And so some of these strategic technologies can then have a substantial value, and then working as a guild where decisions are made based on a vote to whether or not you're going to spend the money which you maybe generated selling some other goods to the players that play the FPS, is going to be possible because of your DApp maybe. And so a lot of people are going to start using these third-party dApps, and that is what I think is exciting about this game. So really open that economy to the world and let them build, whatever they want on top of it.
Can you talk a little bit about how, when you're building your own content, so that's like first party content, but then you also have third party content also on the platform, how are you thinking about like distribution and making sure everybody gets the awareness and the impressions, and like how do you kind of pick and choose who goes higher up in the algorithm and who gets to be pushed by the platform, and just the these kind of nuts and bolts things of you're working with a lot of different people, there's a lot of different teams, everybody's really trying their best, they all want the traffic that you can bring, and you have your own first party content. Like how does that all work exactly?
Yeah, makes sense. So we've always operated in a very fair way, not just with business partners, but also with the community and so on. We're trying to always be the devil's advocate on ourselves. So we never had any concern whatsoever when games are released. We can put them on the front page. They just ask us, hey, when can I go there? And we can just schedule, okay, what date do you want and how long do you want it? And then we just look at our calendar and just put them when they want. So far we never had any issue with that or any complaint. We're also agnostic on the blockchain people are using. Ultra is distributing games from all blockchains. It's really up to the developer. We're completely open with any technology you use. So I don't think there's any sort of like conflict of interest so far. And I don't see it happening because of the philosophy we run the company with.
And then thinking about how you expand and grow and really take on somebody like a Steam or an Epic Games or Apple App Store, whoever the real competitors are, and maybe you don't see them as competitors, in which case I'd love to get your thoughts on that too. But what's your plan to grow and to build and to really turn into a dominant marketplace, and almost a distribution engine for Web3 games?
Yeah. So the way we plan to do it is by creating or by supporting players to get to a point where one of them really takes off. For example, if you look at Steam, they really took off with Counter-Strike. If you look at Epic Games, they really took off with Fortnite. If you look at Nintendo, it's Mario, and every platform has their own, Xbox, Halo, and so on, has their own sort of title that everybody that attracts the user to their platform. If you have an Xbox, it's very likely because you like Halo. If you have a Nintendo, is because you like Zelda or Mario. And then the rest is, coming as a secondary option. And so what we're doing is we're working with a series of, studios to try to make that happen. If they are successful, and if we can bring these people in front of eyeballs, and if the users that are consuming this content have a great and pleasant user experience, then we can start establishing ourselves as a platform that has a user base, and then we can start adding content that can benefit from the existing user base. But before you do that, you need one super title. You need something where a lot of people are coming for. And again, it doesn't need to be our first party titles. We're working with many third parties, and we do everything we can, and we make plans to allow to until we find this one title. And it's something that happens regularly, sometimes for reasons you don't know. There's this one game that just comes out of nowhere and everybody's just super excited about it. And that is enough to sort of it's like a pump. Once you need to kickstart this pump. Once you have these users that are coming, back for playing these other games, then you can suddenly start saying, hey, by the way, there's this one. How about that one? And then, they would be much more likely to acquire these other content. And this is sort of how every major platform works. You need this one exciting content that attracts users, and then you can start converting them, and then you can start launching this pump where other developers are seeing, hey, there are all these users. I want to put my game there, and then you can, until you get another one that got a big hit, and then you can keep running that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Life's certainly a momentum game, especially in markets and video games.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Introducing Creo Engine, a next-level Web3 gaming ecosystem that connects gamers and developers in a Web3 gaming hub. Hop on their Creo Play platform to check out current and upcoming titles like Evermore Nights, Slime Haven, Creonia Metaverse, and Arcade Fest. The team has earned the endorsement of the chairman of Indonesia's People Consultative Assembly and earned a 10 out of 10 from Hackin on their cross-chain bridge audit. Check all this out and more on creoengine.com. Introducing Ridotto, gambling infrastructure that offers seamless on-chain experiences. I'm excited to announce that Ridotto is the first real GambleFi project to be listed on not just one, but two major centralized exchanges, Bitmart and Mexi. Hop on their fully decentralized platform for lotteries, casino games, and betting. No KYC, no deposits, and instant payouts. All fueled by their RDT token, enabling you to play, build your own casino games, and bankroll as the house. Check all this out and more at ridotto.io.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
To circle it back to Citadel, do you guys think that could be that sort of super title that could sort of kick things off to get, not as much kick things off, but really set a strong momentum?
Yes, we really think so, because when we speak to influencers, they're very excited about it. And this is part of the work that we do for the games that we bring on the platform. Again, not just the first parties. We're basically working on a network of influencers that are interested in particular games that we're distributing. And but at the same time, the way we do it is that we know you can't go and shove a game in somebody's face and say, speak about that. They have an audience they're very protective of, which is completely understandable. They worked on, their, follower base for many, many years. It's a big competition. They are forced to do videos like all the time to make sure not to lose these users. So you're not going to ask them to speak about the game that they don't think it's the right fit, because they're just not going to do it. And you can give them money, they're not going to risk for one payment, losing or getting the audience on their back. So they're very protective. And so when we speak to them about this game, they're very excited about it. And so this allows us to, plan a whole marketing strategy that is very much influencer centric, and that we believe is going to help push this game in front of people's eyes, which is the second difficult thing to do after you finished making your game. And from there, then it's going to be purely a merit-based, result. If people like your game, then, you're good to go. And if not, you pass to the next game. But so far, I think me having made games, I see how teams work. And so for some of these games that are going to launch on Ultra, we can see, I know they have a big potential, because, it's not just about launching the game, but it's also how are you going to maintain the users? What are your plans for updates? Season passes, different cycles of updates and so on. And so you can see, you immediately can see teams that know games operation and team that never operated games. And there's a big gap between that. So I like some of these games have a really high potential, and I think, we're going to do something great with them.
I'd love to dig in a little deeper around this influencer topic, because I think you're absolutely right. It's really an influencer-driven market in Web3 gaming and just gaming as a whole. People tend to play what they watch or play what their friends are playing. So what are some of the other things that these influencers are finding important when they're looking to rep a game? Are there any other big sort of like checkpoints that they're looking for, or even some big turnoffs that you've seen can kind of push these influencers away and make it harder to get traction?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of fading a bit these days, but even simple words like NFTs or cryptocurrency is for all the, let's say, mainstream influencer, it's very often a no-go straight away. But it's not, of course, for the Web3 influencers. That they're hoping to have more Web3 games out there. So I think the main Web3, I think it's a non-issue, right? It's mostly a matter of having them agree on terms that are reasonable and everybody's happy. So for the mainstream influencers, like the really big ones, that would be the right targets to speak to, they are more careful when you speak about NFTs, crypto, and so on. They're very risk averse. So as long as you have a game that doesn't require people to, before they can start playing the game, to start buying this, do that, do this, and as long as it's sort of like invisible, they're happy to work with you. But as soon as you say, well, you know what, try the game. So here's some cryptocurrency. This is the NFT you need to buy, and they're like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So, but this is something that we're also noticing on the Web3 game developers part. They understand that more and more that making people jump through hoops is a regression compared to the traditional games. And this is why there's been a backlash a couple of years ago, but we're starting to see games where the structure or the way they implemented the Web3 elements aren't as disruptive as they used to be, because they used to be very disruptive, very negative. And then, people started to think, well, what is the whole point? There's zero value. There's only negative sides, and there's this little positive side. So now you see games that, leverage Web3 properly, that leverage Web3 in a way that is very positive for the players and non-disruptive. And that these kind of games, you come to them, you show them, this will work. This will go much better than these other games.
When you're thinking about bringing on a new game to the platform, can you talk a little bit more about what does that actually look like? I know, I believe I heard you say earlier that you're basically blockchain agnostic, and you're really looking to work with them. What is that process of getting them onboarded, and what exactly are you looking for in a game, and what are some of their questions or concerns about kind of partnering with a launcher, a marketplace, kind of like you guys? How does that whole conversation go down?
Yeah, so this is where sort of like you realize the difference between one developer and another is extremely large. Everybody's requirements or needs are very different. And this is something, to keep in mind. When you build a games distribution platform, there are lots of special cases that are special requirements that need to be addressed for this game to be distributed. And so this took us a lot of time. He wants a DRM, he doesn't want a DRM, he wants like a launcher, he wants this, he wants that. Everybody has their own thing. And if they don't have it, in many cases, technically they just can't distribute the game. Like, it's just not possible, which is something that, Steam has been very good at. For instance, there are many games that couldn't be distributed on Epic Games. Even if they wanted it, they can't, because the platform doesn't support XYZ. They don't have DRM. They don't have all of these different things. And so we're pretty good at it. That means that, but we're still, getting special requests, especially from the sort of like the mega corporations, let's put it like this. They have their own, sauce, and they want to have XYZ, but then you need something linked with the authentication, which is very unique. But overall, we're at this point now where pretty much any Web3 game can be distributed on Ultra, in an hour time. So the process is relatively simple. Either we reach out to them or they reach out to us. We start a conversation. Hey, we can distribute your game, or hey, can you please distribute my game? And then it's really about, so there's a contract to sign, because, we're selling assets also with credit cards. So we can sell also with cryptocurrency, but with credit cards. So we become basically the merchants of record in these cases, which means we need a contract with whoever we talk to. It's something you can't do pure Web3. Everybody does whatever they want. That's not the case. Like, we're paying the VATs for them worldwide, and the different taxes for the different regions. So there's a real a commercial deal being done. Once they sign the contract and getting on the platform, it's very simple. We're extremely open. We verify if the company is legit, and we make sure they're not scammers, these kind of things. And that's about it. Like, that's the background check we're doing. Then we give you access to an application inside Ultra that the common people don't see, which is what we call the Games Developer Center. So you will have a little icon that will appear in the client, and from there you can upload your game, set up your game store page, upload videos, images, the different icons and whatnot. And you can decide, at what price you sell your game, if it's free to play, if you want to have DRMs and all kinds of options that are there. Eventually, you press a publish button, and once you press the publish button, boom, the game appears, and everybody can start, acquiring the game. So it's extremely, open, fair, and we never decided to not put a game because of like competition or whatever reason. Like everybody can get on Ultra.
Yeah, I'd love to shift gears a little bit and get sort of your opinion around some of the big changes as Ultra's been around now for on its, at least second cycle here. What are some of the big leaps forward that you've seen in crypto gaming between, sort of the last cycle and where we are now? Where has the growth really come from? Because it's clear we've come a long way.
Yeah, I think the first step was really to have games. Everybody was building something, but nothing really existed. We've seen a lot of so-so games. And then the next step was, okay, the technology is there. It started to mature. And then the first sort of backlash with the games industry happened. I don't know if you remember the whole story with Ubisoft, Ghost Recon, and all of that. That was sort of like a given for us. We knew exactly why this happened, and we knew it would happen before it happened. But it was a good way for everybody else to realize, what just happened, because, it's Ubisoft. So it happens to them, think about yourself. And so everybody started to think about, getting rid of jumping through hoops, having more, economic models. And also, another realization was, until recently, I would say, a year and a half, all of these games were extremely elitist, meaning, okay, there's, 1,000, 10,000 NFT, that's it. That is your user base. It limits, you need the NFT. And this model for games it's not adapted to the majority of games. Let's put it like this, because I'm not against it. Personally, I think there are games that for whom it would make sense. But if you make an FPS, like, it doesn't make sense. Not to mention essentially every multiplayer game, or not every, but the majority of multiplayer game, because people are on different time zones. So they don't play all together. So you need to think differently. And so we saw different models appear on the distribution of these NFT, the use cases of these NFTs. I think we saw a lot of technology improvement. The cost of gas has tremendously reduced. We used to be stuck with one or two blockchain. Now there are plenty. Different technologies, different options, different strengths, different weaknesses. So as a game developer, you start to have sort of like a choice where, you have, the pros and cons. You can start choosing, and the different types of game maybe will work better on one chain or another. So that is, I think, in itself a very big step, towards, having proper games, because one of the problems that we had on the first and the second wave was really jumping through hoops and the limitation of the technology itself. Like, because when you build a game, you already have a lot of limitations imposed by the 3D engine and the technical capabilities of your computer, how strong it is. You probably don't want to make the game requiring too much, resources, because you're losing a big part of the audience that's not going to play your game because the performance are not good enough. So game developers they're used to it. They look at the thing, what they want to achieve, They look at, the weaknesses, and then they sort of like work their way around. Video game development is full of smoke and mirrors. It's always, it's just as long as it looks correct and you have the impression that, oh, there's a reflection, even though this is done in many different trickery ways, as long as the performance is there, you're happy. So with blockchain, when the games industry started with blockchain, the limitations were huge. And it's really, to make a game with it, even though you're good at working around limitations, it was really difficult. And this is something that becomes less of a problem. Gas fees, transaction speed, finality speed, ease of development, cost of development, all of that starts to be, better and better. So I think we're at the stage now where we're going to see the first mainstream Web3 games. I don't know which one it's going to be, but one of them is bound to eventually, penetrate the market. And I think, it could happen this year, it could happen next year, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen at least next year.
I'm quite excited for that, and I think a lot of the audience is waiting for that. And
For sure.
I think everybody's just kind of waiting for that breakthrough moment, and we're all kind of like, excited for it and prepared for it and ready for it. What's interesting to me is that as of the time of recording, July 5th, the market is in a pretty dismal state, and the let's call it the motivation, or maybe not the motivation, but the spirits of the people feels very, very low. And so I think everybody's kind of counting on, like, what are going to be these killer use cases that are going to come out of Web3 and push us, into that next leg of the industry of where we want to go. Do you think that the price action affects how you guys are building, and then the folks that you're also seeing in the industry, in the gaming space, how everybody is building? Does it affect the builders as much as it does the speculators, or how does that kind of play into, your plans, what you're doing, your roadmap, things like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it affects the mood of everybody for sure. Both on our side, on the community side. Unfortunately, it is something that has been there since day one. So it is something that you need to be ready to deal with if you go in Web3. If you're looking at the number going up and down every day, you will go nuts. So as a game developer, I think it's important not to focus on this and to really focus on your mission. And your mission is make your game the best possible. Because if you keep looking at the emotions of everything that happens, you're going to be completely demotivated. And there's no reason to be like, before number go up and you're motivated, and then number go down and now you're demotivated. It's hard enough to stay motivated even without these metrics happening, that you have to be able to dissociate yourself from that. The truth is the market goes up and down all the time. This time, it is because of the confluence of, a series of events, like it usually is. And this time it's, the Germans, empty Gox and this and that. And, everybody sort of freaks out for this, but it's not the first time people freak out for this. And next time it's going to be another thing. And so you need to be prepared to, detach yourself from that. Otherwise, your mental health will have a bad hit every time this happens, and it happens all the time. So yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Now, I know we're getting close to the time here, So I just want to be very respectful of your time. Maybe you have a few last words for us, any sort of last sentiments, any sort of life alpha. As an entrepreneur, you built something amazing. Would love to just, open up the floor back to you and ask, is there anything that we should be asking you about that we just didn't so far?
Good question. So I think right now our focus is centering more and more on the games that are about to be distributed on Ultra. We were primarily a technology development company so far, and like we're about to be primarily a games distribution or games publisher, if you will. So there's a big shift that is undergoing as we speak at Ultra in terms of our priorities and what we do next. I think there's some really exciting games that are going to be coming, namely Ashes of Mankind is going to be like the launch will happen in multiple steps because the economy of the FPS relies on the corporation side of things. So we're going to be launching the corporation and then eventually the game. There's going to be beta tests of the FPS. There's going to be, there's also a sports game that is heavily relying on NFT technology that's also going to be launched soon. So there's a lot of cool stuff to come. And anybody that is building games, that want their games on Ultra, please reach out. We'd like to work with you. We'd like to work with our influencers and, make a plan and get things rolling, probably by around Trump's reelection, the whole market should, look green, likely, probably a little bit before that. But if he gets elected, I think everything will reverse. I'm apolitical. I'm not saying he should be, but I know for the crypto market, I think this would be a very welcome. And I think I really think with his election, we're going to go back and reverse this whole trend that happened for the past year. So the crypto market, the mood of everybody will go up, and we can start afresh.
Awesome. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. It's really been a pleasure to get to sit down with you and deep dive into Ultra and all the fun things that are coming down the pipeline for you guys, and jumping a little bit back into history too. So thank you very, very much. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Ben and Nick, for inviting me.
100%. Nick, my friend, the legend, best co-host on the planet. Appreciate you as well.
Right back at you, brother, man. Always a pleasure to be hosting with you. David, it was great having you on. And this has been the official Neo Tokyo podcast, Interlinked, powered by Shrapnel and Creo Unicorn. We will be back with another episode next week. Take care, everyone. These red candles can only last so long, or so we hope. Take care.
Bye.
Creo Unicorns is available to play now on their website, and their Play to Airdrop campaign just kicked off on July 1st. Players can now earn daily Xi rewards just by playing the game. Try it out for yourself and breed, battle, and collect your favorite unicorns, all while earning your slice of the Xi pie. This is not an opportunity to miss, so hop onto their website, www.cryptounicorns.fun, and try it out for yourself.